So welcome to the final event of Net Change Week 2010.
Many people can't even say their stories out loud, even in their communities, for fear of reprisal.
Last night, real story, a friend of mine called from Mexico. This is what she said.
I'm in Mexico. I was driving to go shopping, and there was this gunman pulling people out of their cars. They killed a policeman. And we don't want to go out anymore. We are all at home.
Safely? Well, she just said that 8 policemen in her city were killed.
So what we envision is a system in which people feel free and safe to speak. A system that uses accessible cell phone technology, which is very widely spread throughout the world, and where we are encouraging people to do what comes most naturally to people, which is share stories with each other.
Normally, if you have something important to say, you just go ahead and say it. Hey, Nick, I got to tell you something really important. There's something going down tonight at the...
Don't you dare continue that. That would not be good for my business. That story will end here. If it doesn't, I do know where your son lives, and the company can take him out.
So this is a situation where we can see even the presence of an authority figure such as this can severely limit people's wish and courage to speak. It can silence an entire community.
But I have a way around this. I can call megaphone, and I can share my story anonymously so that I remain safe, and I can share it with my chosen community of people who are on the same line as I am. Nick, I want to tell you and everybody else that's on this system that we are going to be having a meeting tonight, and something really important is actually going down at the mine.
And then in our own time, after receiving a notification that there's a message to our private group, I might be able to check that message and hear her message and do something about it. This is no regular phone call, though. This is a megaphone call where you can also tag a message as open to the world. It keeps your identity safe, but it lets the world hear about the issue.
And doing that, sharing it with the world, can really be instrumental in tipping the balance of power. In effect, megaphone does 3 things. Helps you share privately, publicly, or listen to a story.
So, as far as the technology goes, it would be extremely difficult to access the billions of phone calls via your cell phone alone. Of course, we envision a way to embrace all this information together into a website where you can surf through tagged messages and discover what's going on in certain areas or what's going on with certain themes. You could also use your phone itself, which would have a fairly simple navigational system that would serve up stories that you've asked for or stories that could surprise you. And then you can vote for or privatize or publicize images from there. So the question is, if you were offered the opportunity to share a story that mattered to you...
Hold on a second.
Oh, did we jump a section?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Seeing our slides now.
There we go.
Close your eyes for 10 seconds.
See that Pavlovian response, though? I saw the slide, I went straight to the wrap-up. All right, so of course we're looking at this and we see that this is a system that we could build on the knowledge that's already out there and the systems that are already out there. So maybe you can talk a little bit about those as you're working with our technology now.
Sure. Can you hear me? So there's a lot of existing frameworks there we can use. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. For example, Ushahidi
Actually, Don Tapscott featured it in his talk this afternoon. It's a crisis mapping system that came out of the post-election violence in Kenya. Open source, freely available, and actually good friends of mine, which we could use there. It's a mapping system as our front end.
So that's an SMS message that gets mapped to a region in the world?
And there's also a lot of voice over IP frameworks. Ribbit is one of them. Incredibly extensible, very powerful framework that, and the back end would save the phone calls and then also transmit phone calls. Skype also has an extensive API we could use.
So if you can imagine making a free phone call to an answering machine that would record your message and then help you deliver it to the groups that you want to deliver it to. That's basically the simplest way that we can think of to explain it.
So some of the potential uses are within small local communities, and it could be communities that are at risk somehow, communities where there's danger, or it could be something as simple as a bunch of fishermen sharing market prices. Another example, mothers who might want to share information about childcare or micro-business advice with each other. And the one that's most dear to my heart, obviously, is journalists, particularly in areas that are under threat, journalists who are working in conflict zones or under repression, and also journalists who don't have those issues, journalists who work here in Canada or in other parts of the industrialized world who are looking for stories that they can tell in surface.
Our ideas stretch far and wide with this. Clearly, there's a lot of potential to grow this thing. We didn't want to have it bloated when we presented it. But some of the big ones that come off the top of our heads are translation. How could we crowdsource the translation of these messages so that you can actually get logical value from the sound of somebody's voice?
That's making it accessible.
Yeah. Mobile applications are a good way to go through the messages, but we'd also like to have it play on the oldest Sony Ericsson that you can find. And of course, if we can go through all the material and pull elements that support a certain perspective or can be pulled together into a story, we can have podcasts that are literally crowdsourced to the whole world.
Imagine an iTunes radio station.
We can also have the API be extensible so that people could write little programs and things that use the network to do other sorts of things that they might come up with.
I think a good example of API is we have a lot of ideas, but you open up your framework to the rest of the world, and they can build all kinds of good stuff on top of what we've already developed.
People in oppressive regimes tend also to be very ingenious, so we expect that putting something out that's able to be adapted by them and tailored to their needs would be really the way that we want to go. We don't want to prescribe the solution to the challenges that they face, but give them an opportunity to safely explore what their solutions might be.
And to use their voices.
So now, if you could share a story, what kind of story would you share that you don't feel comfortable sharing necessarily face-to-face with people? And most importantly, what kind of stories would you like to hear? Thank you very much. That's the power of megaphone.